Hello nerds, welcome back to another video. Gabriella here. Today is a good day and it's going to get even better because May is over, you guys, okay? It's over. We're in June now. It's Pride Month. Hello, hallelujah, best month of the year. Well, not really. April is still my favorite month, but June is up there. June is really top tier, like top 5 months of the year, I would say. But it's Pride Month. I got to read some amazing books this month. Unfortunately, it wasn't the best reading month for me. I only read 3 books. However, I think it was still an interesting month reading wise. And I'm really excited also for June to come. I have so many great videos planned for you guys and so many books that I'm planning to read, and I feel like I'm over my reading slump. I've been reading for the past few days, so that is pretty amazing. So let's just get into this wrap up, shall we? So the first book that I read this month is Cool for the Summer by Dahlia Adler. This was an ARC that I received. The book did come out, I believe, on June 1st. But I read it earlier in May. I got access to the audiobook ARC version online through the program NetGalley, which I've been a part of for over a month now, maybe a month and a half, 2 months maybe. And God, really enjoyed this read. I loved it so much. I think it was made so much better by the audiobook. I think the story was great and the pacing, the characters, I think they were all really interesting. However, I have to say the audiobook really made it, like really sold it for me. The voice actress who does it was great. I don't usually read novels through audiobooks. I usually read nonfiction. So it was really nice to get to read a novel through this format because I haven't really enjoyed like reading novels through audiobooks before, like fiction ones. I just somehow there would always be a disconnect, or if you don't like the voice actor, you're gonna hate the audiobook no matter how good the book is. And she was great. She did an amazing job, so I was really happy about that. When it comes to the story itself, Cool for the Summer, if you don't know, is the story of the main character, Lara, who is basically in a bisexual love triangle with 2 people, a girl she met over the summer and a boy she's had a crush on since the beginning of time. And honestly, this book does such a great way of subverting cliches because the main character, I believe his name is Chase. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a really like straight white boy name, the boy that she's into, and the way you would describe him on paper, jock, like the popular boy, quarterback, blah blah blah. You're like, yeah, he sounds like a frat boy. He sounds awful. The name Chase sounds like a frat boy name. No offense to Chases out there, but are you a frat boy? You probably are. Even though we don't really have frats here, like anyways, but still Chase manages to sort of subvert those stereotypes of the frat boy and still manages to be actually a likable guy who seems to be fun and treats Laura really well. But she's also really into Jasmine, who she had a sort of fling, not fling, during the summer. It was just great. Perfect way to start the summer. Like the book says, cool for the summer. And get ready for some Demi Lovato references, okay? You can't name your book Cool for the Summer without referencing her. But all around, the story was great. The characters are really lovable. And you really understood the triangle that was forming. I feel like the love triangle trope has really been overplayed. Twilight, Vampire Diaries especially. And often I feel in this day and age when there's a love triangle, it seems very forced. Like it doesn't seem like, you have person A and person B and everybody's like, person A is obviously better for a plethora of reasons. And then the person's like, but person B exists. And it's like, what? But this one you actually understood, the pull between the two. I also really enjoyed Lara's friend dynamic. I felt like they're teenagers, right? They're seniors in high school or juniors, I can't remember. And they're seniors, I just remember it. But they really made it very feasible, the friendships and the way they speak. Sometimes I feel like when adults write YA, the teenagers don't really sound real, but I felt like not only her friends were multi-dimensional and were really like different from one another, I felt like they actually spoke more or less like young adults slash teenagers would sound. So all around, this was a great read. I really suggest it, and I really suggest the audiobook. That was an amazing read, and I'm so glad that's the way I read this book. So all around, this book is a 4 out of 5 stars for me. It's not a 5 star because it's not going to become one of my all-time favorite books, but I really enjoyed it, and I would read this again next summer, for sure. So the second book I read this month is Made in Korea by Sarah Sook. I got to read it as an ARC, again through NetGalley. The book did come out May 18th, although I finished it later in May. So if you don't know, Made in Korea is the story. Our main character actually has a K-beauty brand sort of going at school. So she basically takes some K-beauty items from her uncle and sells them at school for money, for college and other things. And with the help of her cousin. And then the conflict starts when a new kid comes into school who is also Korean, who starts selling K-beauty items, and basically they go into this competition, and the book is supposed to be like an enemies to lovers kind of romance book. I have to say, Made in Korea is a great read for summer. I think it came out at the perfect time. It definitely has that fluff, light-heartedness that you would want in a summer romance. No deep angst, really, or anything like that. Very, like, easy, simple read. However, I do have some criticisms about the book. For example, the enemies to lovers part was... it missed the mark a bit for me there, or a lot. Enemies to lovers is one of, if not my favorite trope of all time in romance, and I was kind of really disappointed in how shallow the enemies part was. The characters had no real reason to be enemies, and also the enemies part was very one-sided. One of the two main characters, I won't say who to not spoil, is the only one that views this as an enemy. Views the other as an enemy. It's not mutual, so it really like made it very lackluster and not that exciting. And considering it's my favorite trope, I've read so many enemies to lovers that are so like you have a real reason to hate this person, and this one, it really missed the mark for me. And going hand in hand with the one-sided enemy thing, the main character who also views the only character that views the other as an enemy was also kind of annoying and very like extra. And I'm okay with an unlikable main character, but it felt like this character was supposed to be likable and ended up not being. So that's kind of the, how do I say, disparity in there. When a character is not meant to be likable and they're not likable, it's great. It's like perfection, when you have like sort of an antagonist more than anything, an anti-hero. But when you have a main character that's supposed to be like the person you're rooting for, but you don't like them, it's kind of like meh, like why are we doing this, Made in Korea was a great way for me to get immersed into more Korean or Korean American culture, not only in K-beauty, but in the language used by the characters, calling their family members and things like that by their Korean names, and or like the expression for in Korean, like, aunt, uncle in Korean, Korean food, just Korean, all around culture, which I don't usually get or have never gotten in a book before. You don't really get that much on TV either. Like, unless you listen to K-pop, there's not that much, I feel like, Korean in main pop culture. So that was really interesting. However, I have to say, at times, if I felt a bit at a loss when all these Korean terms were thrown at me, and Google is free, so like I could Google whatever it was, that's not a problem. But it took me away from the story, and I have like, some troubles with attention. So if I have to Google a term every other page, it's really hard for me to get back into the story and stay full on through. Or, if I just want to sit in bed and read this book, I have to find my phone and start searching or get up to my computer. Like, it just, I don't know, maybe in the real version of the book, the physical version, there'll be like a lexicon. That would be great. But in the ARC, that wasn't. And yeah, it took me a bit out of the story. But again, I was happy to learn these new terms and things like that. But yeah, it was really hard. And sometimes, if I would go a day without reading the book and I would come back to it, I would forget what that term means and I would have to Google it again. So it was a little bit, not too much, but it was just, I feel like it was a lot at once. And I wish I had some way of staying in the story while understanding what all those terms meant. But all around, it was a nice, cute story. And like I said, a great summer read. So I ended up giving it 3 stars. My full review is on Goodreads right now. And I have to say, this was a first novel by Sarah Sook, so I'm interested to read the rest of her works, because if she really infuses some of that Korean like culture in there, I'm still really interested in that. And also, I think it was the perfect book to read during Asian Heritage Month. So all around, that was great points there. But yeah, it's gonna stay at 3 stars for me. So the third book I read this month is the one, the only Death Note. This is Black Edition Volume 1, which means it's Volume 1 and 2 of like the regular edition, which is why it's a bit more of a chunker. And I know I hauled this before, but look at the black. Like, it's outstanding. Yeah, I definitely had to get my hands on this version. I had to order it from Book Depository, but so worth it. And I was really happy to get Volume 1 and 2 all in one shot. That was great. So if you don't know, Death Note is the story of this boy who basically gets this Death Note, which is a notebook. When you write the name of a person in the notebook, they will die in the way that you write in the notebook, or of a heart attack if you write nothing. This book usually belongs to Shinigami, which are sort of the gods of death in Japanese culture. There are many of them. So they're kind of like sort of devils, I guess, if you want to see it that way, or like mini Hades from Greek mythology. But basically, this boy, Light, gets his hand on this notebook and starts deciding that he wants to exterminate all major criminals. What a great story. I really love this kind of story where the main character is doing something bad, but you still root for them. I don't believe in killing all criminals, for sure. But and he does only kill like violent criminals, murderers, rapists, things like that. And kidnappers also. So I do appreciate that, but for sure, like ethically speaking, that is a no bueno. But yeah, basically the story, you follow him going along with his plan, trying to exterminate as many criminals as possible, while also being chased by the police and from around the world, because he's killed criminals from all around the world. So you kind of follow these two stories hand in hand. The police officers who are trying to stop him and the Shinigami, and their story and who they're gonna kill next and their plans. I found it so interesting. The main character, Light, is definitely a genius. Definitely also is a psychopath, but he's definitely high up on the IQ scale. I would say, around the 200 at least. So yeah, it was just a great story, and I'm so excited to read Volume 2 and 3. And I do own these. Oh. So I'm so excited to read Volume 2, 3, 4, 5. 3, 4, 5, 6, which I do own already. So that is great. And yeah, Black Edition still. This one is less black than the other, but I'll take it. But yeah, I'm just really a fan of these, and I'm excited to read the rest. I've heard that it goes a bit downhill after Volume 6, so that's why I bought the first 6 volumes first. And I'm really excited also to watch the TV show afterwards, because I've heard it's really close to the show, really close to the book, sorry. I know the Americans made a movie about that, and I know it's atrocious. I can tell already. When you cast a white actor for a story that happens in Japan with only Japanese people, you can already tell. It leaves a scent. But I'm really excited to get into the anime for that as well once I'm done with these. So yeah, Death Note was a 5-star for me, my only 5-star of the month. And yeah, it's the first manga I've ever read, actually, and gives me the best impression of manga ever. I have a few more on my bookshelf that I wanted to read, and this was, I think, a great way to start. So that is all I have for you guys today. Those were all the books that I read. It was a bit of a slow month reading-wise, but I'm really hopeful and excited about June. But if you like the video, don't forget to leave a like down below. And for this video, if you watch all the way to the end, please comment. What are we going to comment? We're going to comment a notebook or books at the end for Death Note. I think that seems appropriate enough. And as always, all my social media, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram are linked down below. My wish list, my Ko-fi, and my book outlet referral code are also down below. And my affiliate links for all the books that I mentioned today will also be down below. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you soon.